Okay, let's jump straight into a really interesting deep dive today.
Sounds good.
We're looking at, well, quite a fascinating source. It's a YouTube interview transcript featuring Pham Ngoc Phương Anh. She was the first runner-up Miss Vietnam 2020.
Yeah, and her story is pretty compelling because, as the source details, she wasn't always, in the spotlight like that.
Right.
Before she even thought about pageants, she actually had a regular office job, worked at Shopee.
Exactly. And that's just like one part of what makes her background so, well, unexpected for someone in pageantry.
hmm
The transcript also dives into her academic side, which is pretty impressive. She was valedictorian, high school valedictorian,
Yeah, I saw that.
had an 8.5 IELTS score, and then later got a master's scholarship. It's just not the profile maybe you'd immediately picture.
Absolutely not. So, okay, for this deep dive, our mission really is to dig into that unexpected journey she took.
Yeah.
We want to explore how she made that leap, from the office desk to the pageant stage.
And the pressure's right.
Exactly. The unique pressures, the challenges she faced when she became a public figure, her own take on beauty and success,
Uh-huh.
and ultimately, what key insights, what takeaways we can pull from her experiences that might be valuable for you listening.
Right. We're here to help you kind of sift through it all and get to the important nuggets of knowledge from what she shared,
Yeah, the stuff that really mattered in her journey.
and maybe hold some lessons for anyone dealing with change or pressure or how people see them. So let's unpack this. Where did it even start?
Well, according to the transcript, the whole thing kicked off with something surprisingly, well, ordinary. She saw an advertisement for the pageant.
An ad?
Yeah, just an ad. While she was at work at Shopee.
That's it. Just saw an ad. It almost feels too simple for such a massive life change. Was it like totally spontaneous or?
She describes it as pretty quick. Yeah, almost a now or never kind of feeling.
Huh.
This was around August, she said, which also happened to be during her final year of university. So
Yeah.
already a pretty packed time, you'd think.
Oh, definitely.
She did mention she had saved up some money to support herself. So that suggests, maybe a little bit of forethought along with the impulse.
Okay.
It wasn't completely unprepared, even if the trigger itself was kind of out of the blue.
Interesting. So a spontaneous spark, but maybe some groundwork was already there financially. And then jumping into that world, the pageant world, from an office must have been challenging right off the bat.
Oh, for sure. She talked about the schedule immediately. Super intense.
Like early mornings, late nights.
Exactly. That was the norm. But maybe the bigger shift was just the constant need to be on. She had to get used to doing makeup every day, dressing up all the time, always maintaining this presentable appearance. That's a huge change from a typical office job.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, okay, those were the initial hurdles, just competing. But the pressure, surely that ramped up massively after she actually won the runner-up title, became a public figure.
It absolutely did. She talks about how the scrutiny just increased, like
Yeah.
dramatically.
Focused on what?
Everything. Her appearance, her behavior, even her work ethic came under the microscope. And what was really striking is she started getting criticism for things she'd never even thought about before,
Like what kind of things?
like really minor facial features. Things she hadn't paid any attention to suddenly became points of public comment.
Wow. Being picked apart for tiny features you never even noticed yourself. That must be incredibly disorienting, hard to deal with. How does she handle that wave of judgment?
Well, initially she said it was pretty shocking and, yeah, difficult.
I bet.
But she developed a way to cope. Basically, accepting that, nothing's perfect, and then consciously shifting her focus, focusing on the thing she could actually control.
Okay, like what?
She specifically mentioned exercising, working on improving her knowledge, enhancing her skills. Those became her outlets.
That makes sense. Focusing on the controllable. That's a really powerful takeaway, actually.
Yeah.
It's not just about passively accepting criticism. It's about actively channeling that energy into self-improvement. How did she, describe that process?
She kind of saw it as taking action instead of just dwelling on comments she couldn't change, right?
Right.
So she put her effort inward, strengthening her body, expanding her mind, honing her abilities. It feels like a really tangible way to build yourself up when the outside world is maybe trying to knock you down over superficial stuff.
The transcript had that really specific example, didn't it? About her philtrum
Right.
and people suggesting cosmetic procedures.
Yes,
Yeah.
that really stood out. She got comments that her philtrum looked wide, apparently, and someone actually advised her to get fillers to look, quote, more youthful.
Wow. Okay. And her response.
It tells you a lot, I think. She chose not to have any surgery for herself. She felt like, makeup or maybe different hairstyles could address it if she even wanted to.
Uh-huh.
But she was also really clear that she respects other people's choices about cosmetic procedures. It wasn't a judgment on others. She just drew her own line.
It sounds like she has a really thoughtful kind of internal compass when it comes to her own appearance and choices, which probably links back to how she views beauty itself.
It really does. She talks about beauty not just as, how you look, but as a kind of gift or maybe a privilege.
A privilege. Interesting.
Yeah, and one that comes with responsibility. She believes that privilege gives you influence, and her perspective is that this influence needs to be used for positive things.
Like charity work.
Exactly. Charity, inspiring young people. She really emphasized that any lasting recognition she gets won't come from just, fleeting physical beauty. It comes from those contributions, from her character.
And she pointed to examples too, right? Other title holders doing good things.
She did. She mentioned others who embody this, highlighting diverse kinds of beauty and using their platforms well, like the Miss Universe Thailand contestant who represented different body types, or Miss South Africa with short hair and darker skin.
So using beauty as a platform, not just the end goal.
Precisely. Those examples really back up her message. The value isn't just the beauty itself, it's how you use the platform it gives you for good, and maybe to broaden the definition of beauty too.
Okay, now let's talk about stereotypes. Because given her background, the academics, the pageant title, her family people apparently made some quick assumptions. The source mentions she was often seen as a kind of sheltered princess.
Yes, that stereotype definitely came up. The idea that maybe she was a bit delicate or, maybe couldn't handle practical things like cooking. Just a very narrow view based on those surface facts.
But the reality she describes, it sounds completely different from that sheltered princess image.
Oh, totally. She seemed to really light up when talking about her actual interests.
Yeah.
And they're far from delicate. She loves traveling. She's into sports like hiking, trekking, running, and photography, too.
So hang on, this sheltered princess stereotype is floating around. Meanwhile, the source says she's actually planning treks and hikes, maybe even Nepal. That paints a completely different picture. You're imagining, I don't know, fancy dresses, and she's probably thinking about hiking boots. That's a fantastic contrast.
It really is. And dealing with those superficial judgments, well, it was frustrating for her at first. People having this fixed idea of who she was without really knowing her.
So how did she handle that frustration? Being misunderstood or judged like that?
She had this key realization, she said. She figured out she didn't need to prove herself to absolutely everyone. She specifically mentioned learning to filter the feedback, like deciding not to feel the need to justify herself to people whose opinions weren't really constructive or didn't genuinely matter. She started consciously choosing which voices to actually listen to and let in.
That sounds incredibly freeing, just drawing that line.
She said herself, learning to filter that noise and letting go of needing to prove herself to, unsupportive people just made her life feel much easier. It's such a crucial lesson, isn't it? Protecting your own mental space.
Definitely. Building on that, she described herself as generally optimistic, but also someone who worries quite a bit. Prone to overthinking, maybe even she used the word overreact.
Yeah.
So how does she cope when that negativity or stress gets overwhelming?
Her main coping strategy, the one she values most, is talking things through. Friends, family.
This is talking.
Yeah. She really emphasized how much she relies on them just listening and offering support. Even for problems that, looking back, might seem small. Just the act of saying it out loud and having someone listen, that's incredibly helpful for her.
Is that her only method, though?
No. She also mentioned writing things down, like in a diary app on her phone.
Okay.
He finds it helps organize her thoughts, maybe get some negative feelings out. But she did say that for her personally, it's not quite as effective as actually talking to someone. That interaction is key for her.
It sounds like that support system wasn't just for, emotional comfort. It sounds like it played a strategic role, too, especially during the pageant.
Oh, absolutely. The source gives specific examples. She had a friend helping with styling and makeup advice.
Yeah.
Her brother helped her prep for interviews and even managed her crazy schedule.
Wow.
It really shows how building that strong, supportive network isn't just nice to have. It can be a genuine strategic advantage when you're chasing big goals.
That's a brilliant point, support as strategy. Okay, what about facing failure? Or just the possibility of disappointment in such a high-stakes thing like a pageant?
Her approach there is really grounded in preparation and effort. Her main focus, she says, is always, did I prepare thoroughly? Did I do my absolute best?
Right.
If the answer is yes, then she feels okay, proud even, no matter what the final outcome is. She kind of views the result then as, well, maybe destiny or just a learning experience. It shifts the focus away from the unpredictable result onto the effort she can control.
So her biggest fear isn't actually failing, it's more like regret.
Exactly that. She stated her biggest fear is that lingering question, what if I could have done better? That hypothetical regret, she said, would haunt her if she knew she hadn't given it her all in preparation. It just reinforces that for her, the process, the preparation, giving her best shot, that's actually more important than just the final placement.
Looking back at her background again, juggling university, an honors program, extracurriculars, and the pageant, all in her senior year, it's pretty clear she's got a deeply ambitious streak.
Undeniably. The sheer amount she took on simultaneously in that final year is, well, remarkable.
Yeah.
And it taught her something crucial, which she highlighted, the importance of prioritizing. She noticed, lots of people want to do many things, but the real key is knowing how to order them, how to manage them effectively.
So how did she actually approach that prioritization?
She said she prioritizes based on a mix of importance and time sensitivity. Like at the time of the interview, her main goal was getting ready for Miss International 2022. So her other activities were kind of arranged or managed around that central focus.
Got it. There's also that really interesting connection she described between her academic side and her pageant journey.
Yeah.
To some people, those might seem like totally separate worlds.
They can seem disconnected, yeah.
Yeah.
But she explained how they actually helped each other. Her strong academic background, being valedictorian, that high out score, it actually made her stand out in the pageant world.
Oh, interesting. How so?
People didn't just see her looks. They remembered her for being smart, for her academic achievements. It gave her another dimension.
And then the pageant experience circled back to help her academically.
Exactly. Her experiences as a title holder, the social work, the activities she did, they built a more well-rounded profile, which then helped her secure that master's scholarship.
That's great synergy.
Yeah, and she hopes her story can show young people that you don't have to choose between academics and personal development, like pageants. You can value both. She's challenging that idea that they're somehow separate or that one detracts from the other.
It's about being a whole person, right, with different facets. What about her future goals? The source mentioned she's inspired by people who are just intensely dedicated to something, like eat and sleep restlessly, pursuing a passion.
Yes, that image clearly clicks with her. She expressed this really strong desire to experience a period in her own life where she can just be intensely focused on one major goal. Immerse herself completely.
Like live without regret.
Exactly. Live without that regret of not having fully committed or tried something with everything she had.
And that seems to be driving her towards new challenges. She mentioned getting ready for Miss International 2022, which was her focus then, and even personal goals like that Nepal trek.
Yeah, she genuinely seems to find joy in competition and challenges. She sees things like exams or competitions not just as stressful, but as chances for, like, structured self-improvement.
Yeah.
They give her clear goals, clear rewards, and that motivates her to push herself, to become a better version of herself. It's a mindset that turns potential anxiety into fuel for growth.
So, okay, pulling back from Pham Ngoc Phuong, a specific story, there are some really valuable takeaways here for pretty much anyone, I think.
Absolutely. Her journey is a great reminder that, big life changes can start from unexpected, even simple moments.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the power of learning to accept imperfections, maybe letting go of what others think, and instead channeling your energy into what you can control, your own effort, your knowledge, your skills.
And definitely the importance of inner strength, right? Being selective about whose opinions you actually let affect you,
Yeah.
and building that solid support system, not just for comfort, but strategically too.
Yes, exactly. And her whole perspective on beauty offers such a powerful reframe, doesn't it? That true value, lasting influence, it comes from your character, what you contribute, how you use whatever platform you have.
Mm-hmm.
Much more than just fleeting appearance. And maybe most importantly, her approach to those high-stakes moments teaches us that focusing on thorough preparation, knowing you gave your absolute best, that's ultimately more freeing, more fulfilling than just obsessing over the final outcome.
She wrapped up her interview, didn't she, by encouraging people to just step outside their comfort zones, to live out there and live a lot. I think she said.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to try new things, even if they seem scary or messy or you're not sure how they'll turn out. She believes the more different experiences you collect, the more you understand yourself and get closer to what you really want.
That's a really compelling call to action, isn't it? It
Mm.
leaves you thinking, what experiences are you maybe holding back from right now? Perhaps out of fear or uncertainty or just inertia.
Exactly. And what opportunities for discovering more about yourself, for growth, for building a richer life, might you be missing by not just stepping out and embracing the unexpected? Kind of like she did.